The Huntingburg City Council has made its move on health care for city employees. More on what they did at last night's meeting. Plus, the DuBois County Council holds its final meeting of the year. We'll talk with Greg Kendall about the year that was for the county, and Lieutenant Stuart Wilson with the DuBois County Sheriff's Department is tonight's guest on Inform. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. We begin this evening with one local city passing an ordinance in response to the Affordable Care Act. With the ACA's ongoing implementation, state and local governments like the city of Huntingburg are forced to comply with new guidelines. Last night, the Huntingburg City Council formally passed an ordinance to meet the issues surrounding full-time employees. All city employees that work 30 or more hours a week are considered as full-time employees under the Affordable Care Act, and they must be covered by health care. Additionally, elected officials, including the mayor, will now be on the plan. This ordinance marks a formal change from previous city policies. Huntingburg Mayor Denny Spinner says getting everything on the same page was the main reason for the change.
That had to be uniform across the line for all elected officials, and the council discussion led to a decision to allow the benefit to be offered to elected officials.
Elected officials, along with the city attorney, are categorized differently under the Act as there is no real way to log the hours that they work. In the end, elected officials, the city attorney, and all city employees that work 30 or more hours per week will be offered equal health care coverage in compliance with the ACA's guidelines. Also last night, the council announced several appointments to various city and regional boards. Several folks were appointed to 4-year terms on city boards, and these are Mand Kaish to the Park Board, Victoria Lewis and Richard Mundy to the Plan Commission, Gary Bender and Jimmy Sorrells to the Housing Authority, and Fred Souders to the Airport Board. Others were elected to 1-year terms on their boards. Paul Nycom was given a 1-year appointment to the Economic Development Commission, Steve McFerrin was appointed to the Region 15 Planning Commission Board, and Spenner was appointed to a 1-year term on the DuBois Strong Board of Directors. Last night marked the final meeting of 2013 for the DuBois County Council, and change may be on the way for at least one county office. The council formally heard a proposal from County Commissioners President Larry Vollmer concerning changes in office space for the county's Veterans Services Officer. Vollmer told the council that the current issue stems from complaints that folks walking by outside of the current office location in the courthouse annex can hear the conversations taking place inside of the office. Vollmer proposed moving the office to a room adjacent to the council chambers in the courthouse annex. He also proposed moving the entrance door from that room from inside of the council chambers to the outside hallway, a move which the council as a whole did not agree with. The council approved the use of the space for the Veterans Services Officer by a show of hands last night, with the door issue still to be resolved going forward. On a secondary note, discussions were also begun last night about using space in the courthouse annex to store county coroner records. Coroner Bob Veach has run out of space to store the records, and more space is currently being sought out for that purpose. Despite some controversy this year, 2013 has been a good year for the council in the view of Council President Greg Kendall. He says finances in the county are in good shape thanks to the efforts of several people.
Overall, we have tried, and the council has tried, and the commissioners, I think, also have tried very hard to really watch the spending so that we don't overspend and the budgets don't increase any more than they absolutely have to because of inflation rates. So as long as we can keep from adding new things and putting major amounts of money into things that aren't necessary.
To Kendall's point, County Auditor Kathy Hope informed the council last night that the county's budget for next year has been approved. 4 of the county's 22 townships saw an increase in their tax rate, while the remaining 18 townships saw their tax rate go down over what this past year's was. The overall tax rate only rose by 0.0005%. Kendall says keeping the county strong financially will be a big priority as we head into 2014.
Well, I think in 2014 we're going to hope to accomplish the same things by trying to keep the tax rate from going up at any type of a rate over what the inflation rate is going to be. And hopefully our assessed evaluations will continue to rise to help offset any of those rises in costs, and we can keep Du Bois County in a progressive mind and state of mind.
Also last night, the council approved several appointments for various area boards next year. Notable appointments among these are Martha Ware to the 911 Commission, Barb Modize to the Area Development Corporation, Mark Brescher to Region 15, Deb Stemley to the Library Board, Greg Kendall to the Solid Waste District, and Mitchell Clark to the Tourism Committee. With the recent announcement of annexation plans in Tell City, officials there are prepared to invest millions in the next few years to extend its municipal services to the more than 1,700-acre annexation area. The annexation document was originally approved a week ago Monday and marked the first reading of the formal annexation ordinance. That ordinance is set to be read several times between now and March 3rd of next year, when the annexation is set to come to a formal vote of the Tell City Council. Should that annexation formally be approved by vote, Tell City would have 1 year to provide services such as trash collection, recycling, police and fire protection, and street maintenance. The area for annexation is currently policed by the Perry County Sheriff's Department, and the city is anticipating hiring 1 additional police officer and buying a new squad car to cover the enlarged city boundaries. Officials estimate that the new officer's salary and benefits would come out to $55,100 per year, and the new car with equipment would be an additional $51,500. Now, those aforementioned costs would not be the only ones. City utilities would also be facing high costs to get things done. Annexation plans project that Tell City's electric department would have to spend nearly $548,000 to compensate Southern Indiana Power for that company's lost revenue and electrical equipment should the annexation be formally approved. The previously unveiled financial plan also shows that the city electric utility would have to invest another $1.45 million for the installation of poles, transformers, and both overhead and underground lines in the annexed areas. Savings are expected over the long haul, however. The study is projecting a savings of $21 per month on bills for customers once the switch to the city as electric provider is made. Staying in Perry County, another Perry County School Corporation has voiced its support for keeping the Tell City Ivy Tech campus open. Members of the Cannleton School Board recently adopted a resolution formally supporting the campus in light of the possibility that Ivy Tech may close it. Cannleton School Superintendent Alva Sibbett says he thinks the closing of the campus would have a negative impact on residents of the county. Sibbett says the resolution the Cannleton School Board signed is very similar to one that the Tell City Troy Township School Board signed when it expressed its support for the college. Now, the Tell City campus is being considered for closing due to a statewide budget deficit in the Ivy Tech system. The deficit is around $68 million according to some reports, which would necessitate the closure of several campuses across the state. Over this past summer, the college's Board of Trustees voted to raise tuition by $5 per credit hour each semester over the next 2 years. Part of the money raised will go towards funding student activities. However, the money generated from that will likely still not be enough to fund necessary improvements at several properties. The State Budget Committee approved $63 million of state funding for expansion work at the Anderson, Bloomington, and Indianapolis Ivy Tech campuses. The Budget Committee at that time actually reported a budget deficit of $78 million. Sibbett says several of the students from the district take classes at Ivy Tech. He says the students get college credit and the district pays for their tuition. Sibbett also pointed to a change in state law that required all state universities to accept Ivy Tech credits that has allowed students to be able to go on and get degrees at Indiana University, Purdue, and various other state institutions. Moving now to Pike County, a Petersburg man was arrested recently after authorities say he intentionally burned his mobile home that he was living in for insurance money. 56-year-old Kenneth Nash of Petersburg was arrested in connection with a September 17th fire that destroyed his house trailer. A probable cause affidavit states that the fire call came in about 30 minutes after Nash had been told to move his house trailer off of someone else's property. The Petersburg Fire Department brought in State Deputy Fire Marshal Investigator Matt Wells to find the cause of the fire. Wells stated in the affidavit that he determined the cause of the fire to have come from the stovetop. During his original interview with Wells, Nash stated that he must have left the stovetop on when he left the home to go out of town. Wells discovered after further investigation that property owner Randy Harris had told Nash to move his trailer off of Harris's property immediately. Harris had actually bought the land that the trailer was on several months earlier. However, during a second interview on December 18th with Wells, Nash openly admitted to lying about talking with Harris on the day of the fire because he wanted to avoid raising suspicion about the cause of it. According to the affidavit, Nash then admitted that he intentionally set a pot with cooking oil in it on the stove and intentionally left the burner on in order to burn the home down to collect insurance money. Nash actually received more than $8,300 from Progressive Insurance for his claim, according to the affidavit. Nash is charged with arson and insurance fraud. Looking to state news, Governor Mike Pence wants Indiana lawmakers to create a state tax credit that would help parents offset adoption expenses. Pence's proposal calls for taxpayers benefiting from the federal adoption credit would be able to claim an additional credit on their state tax return. Pence also wants an interim study committee to explore faith-based and community adoption programs and how to better connect the state's adoption services. Pence has said he wants Indiana to become the nation's most pro-adoption state. Sharon Pierce, the president and CEO of The Villages, which is the state's largest not-for-profit child and family services agency, says she supports Pence's plan. Pierce says the organization would also like to see lawmakers bring back a state adoption subsidy. In final notes for you this evening, a Spencer County theme park has recently honored several of its employees for their years of service. Holiday World and Splash and Safari recently presented the park's service award to 9 employees. The award went to employees who have been with the park for multiples of 5 years of service, according to Park President Matt Eckert. Eckert says this year's core group represents 85 years of service, and the core of that group has aided in transitioning smoothly from 80 to more than 2,000 employees each spring when the park opens for the season. This year's Service Award recipients are Tom Berg of Chrisney, Bethany Bailey of Winslow, Sean Strahl of Boonville, Steve Weedman of Tell City, Andy Beeler of Huntingburg, Adam Kuntz of Ferdinand, Tony Perkins of Lamar, Dale Skinner of Dale, and Tim Suter of Lamar. Holiday World and Splash and Safari will open in May for the 2014 season with the premiere of the Mayflower Swinging Ship Ride. For more information about the parks and seasonal job opportunities, you can go to holidayworld.com or you can call 1-877-463-2645. Coming up after the break, your local forecast, sports with me, and Inform featuring Lieutenant Stuart Wilson with the DuBois County Sheriff's Department. That's all up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.